welcome back to Rosemead. We're back here today at Golden Gate Cemetery, and we're going to talk about William Turnquist, who is right over here. So William Turnquist was born in 1886 in Sweden, and he was a master shipbuilder in a place called Arembo. I'm butchering that. I'm not Swedish, but it's something along those lines. And in 1912, he decided to move to America, and so he booked passage on the Titanic, third class, with 5 other people. So coincidentally enough, his last job before he decided to move to America was on an American liner. I think the company is called American Ships or American Line or something. And it was on one of their ships called the New York. And the New York, for people who are really familiar with the Titanic, the New York was the ship that the Titanic almost hit as they were pulling off the dock at Southampton when they first left. And his last job before moving to America was on that ship, the ship that the Titanic almost hit. So he was on the Titanic with 5 people. They were in steerage in the third class, and he survived. It was very lucky that he survived. He claimed that there was no room for him in any of the boats, and that he had to jump in the water and swim for 30 minutes before being pulled aboard Collapsible A. But most likely, he was pulled aboard Lifeboat 15. He did have to jump, though. He had to jump from the Titanic. And he said that he did that 3 minutes before the Titanic sank. And his family always said that the watch he was wearing that night stopped at 2:17 a.m. when he hit the water. 2:20 is the time the Titanic actually went under. The other people that he was traveling with all passed away. He probably did not swim in the water for 30 minutes. I don't think he would have lived that long. The water was extremely cold that night. But he may have been rescued from Lifeboat 15 from the water. So he was probably in the water for a few minutes. And then he came over, obviously, via the Carpathia in 1912, and he got a job on Matson lines, and he continued working as a shipbuilder. He also survived both World Wars. He ended up joining the Navy, and at the time of his death in 1946, he was the captain of the U.S. Naval Reserves. And his last command had been earlier in World War II. I think 1942. He had a job aboard a ship in Italy. I think he was technically retired by that point, but his wife had passed away, so I think he decided to come out of retirement to serve his country. And so he died in Long Beach in 1946. But he was about 60 years old at the time of his death. And he still has descendants. He had a son that was still living as of 2016. And his son ended up serving in the Korean War. So, that's not too much about him. But, that's quite the life, surviving the Titanic, World War I, and World War II. It's also very lucky that he managed to survive the Titanic, seeing as he was in third class. And third class didn't have a large survival rate. So most people are familiar with the Titanic. It's talked about every now and then. But it was one of the worst tragedies in American history, actually in world history, because there weren't just Americans on it. And 1,500 people died, including the 5 people he was traveling with. But thankfully, he was not one of them. Rest in peace to the 1,500 people that died on the Titanic, and rest in peace to William Henry Turnquist. And we're glad to have his testimony as to what happened on April 14th to 15th, 1912. So, yeah, just a brief history of Mr. Turnquist and the Titanic. But, yeah, thank you again for joining in, and we'll see you next time. Bye.